So we're still talking about consciousness, philosophy 101, bad professor here talking about specifically whether changes to the brain show up in what we might call changes to consciousness, which means are they very equal? do we start to draw a stronger correlation? Do we start to think these are the same things? And in particular, the scientism argument that consciousness is just a byproduct or a shadow of the brain. It's the physical activity in the brain. So one of the ways this is couched, one of these interesting ways that people talk about it is for example, you drink something, you do something to the brain that intoxicates it. Is that intoxication reflected in consciousness? And I think most people would say yes to this experience and to this question. They would say, yeah, whenever I drink, my consciousness feels the exact same way, which means it's blurred or you lose it entirely. I don't think you can lose it, but the scientists would say that you lose it to the extent that you pass out. How about that? So the correlation seems to be that the effects shadow each other. Um, and so that seems to be fairly convincing for a lot of people because you're all scientists. And when you're all scientists, you want to test it, you want to look at this. And I think the problem here is these assumptions. And one of the assumptions is that the cause and effect moves that direction. And so you do get people on the other side. What I mean by that is that the cause and effect goes the direction of brain being first, consciousness being second. So that when you do something to brain, you want to look for that effect in consciousness, especially since if you've already assumed it's a byproduct or a shadow, go watch the other video. So somebody that disagrees with this is, and I'm sure you've heard of him, Peter Fenwick, who's a doctor. He's a neuropsychiatrist. He's well known in his field, but he's also a little woo-woo with his near-death experience stuff. Fenwick really wants to make this other argument that it moves the other direction. He wants to make the case that the brain's a filter and that what consciousness is a more fundamental, global, real, meaningful thing, and the brain is just a filter. So that when you impair that filter, which means drink something in your brain gets affected. When you impair that filter, of course you're going to think that something's changed to the consciousness, but it's just that the filter's not working. And so that's one way to look at it. You see how I've reversed the direction of the cause and effect and of the original assumption about how this whole system works because we don't know the answer. So it does make sense as a philosopher to look at it both ways. Most people don't do that. That's called scientism. That's what you're doing. Send me the comment saying scientism's not real or it's not a word or nothing begins with an S. I don't know what you people are talking about. But Fenwick is questionable. So we're going to do a whole video on him, but that's a way to understand the meaningful nature of the questions. Thanks for coming.